I, along with a number of you, like to follow the daily meditations online of Richard Rohr, who is a theologian, an author, and a Franciscan monk. On February 5th, he shared this story. When I was on a retreat at the Thomas Merton Hermitage at Gethsemane Abbey in Kentucky, way back in 1985, I had a chance encounter that has stayed with me all these years. I was walking down a little trail when I recognized a recluse, what you might call a hermit's hermit, coming toward me. Not wanting to intrude on his deep silence, I bowed my head and moved to the side of the path, intending to walk past him. I bowed my head and let him pass. But instead, as we neared each other, he looked at me and he said, "Richard?" Now that surprised me. He was supposed to be silent. How did he know who I was? "Richard, you get chances to preach and I don't. I want you to tell the people one thing." And pointing to the sky, he said, "God is not out there." Then he said, "God bless you," and abruptly continued on the path. This seems to me to be an appropriate message for us on this second Sunday of Epiphany, a liturgical season when Jesus, the Christ, the Son of God, God manifests himself to us through his actions and presence. God is not out there. God is near. God is here. This morning, we read Psalm 139. See if you can identify parts of it as I continue in this homily. Perhaps this psalm was written by King David. He seemed to have a personal relationship with God. He knows that God is with him in all aspects of his life, guiding, pushing, challenging, comforting, and celebrating. And because of that, the psalmist is elated to know that God is so much a part of his life, of him. Note that God is not plotting or trying to take away the individual's will, but remains a personal companion, wishing only the best for this human whom he loves and for whom he offers to accompany on life's journey. Knowing that God is close at hand might almost be threatening for someone who thinks that they would like to change the pattern of their life. But regardless, God will be with him, even if he errs off course. King David often had a strained relationship with God. His mistakes and ours are forgiven. Reconciliation is God's goal for mankind. Today's Old Testament reading tells us how young Samuel had spent most of his childhood living in the temple under the guidance of Eli. At night, he hears God, but he doesn't know it's God. He's naive to the fact, but Eli suspects. And so he tells Samuel to go back and lie down. And when God calls again, say to him, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." Thus Samuel waits. At night in the bedchamber, the Lord came calling, "Samuel, Samuel." It says God came and stood beside him there. I believe that this is how God is even today in seeking, guiding, supporting, and loving us. Have you ever known the presence as Samuel did? Psalm 139 says, "Lord, you have searched me out and known me. You know my sitting down and my rising up. You discern my thoughts from afar." According to biblical history, this story takes place about 2,000 years BCE. We may assume that Samuel continued in his relationship with God, for we know from further accounts that Samuel became a great judge and prophet who consecrated King David. Samuel followed God, faithfully, trusting, assured that God was near, and maybe still standing next to him. Now let's jump 2,000 years beyond that to the time of Jesus' ministry. In today's gospel, we learn how Nathanael came to be one of his apostles. When Nathanael's friend Philip said, "We have found Jesus of Nazareth," Nathanael said some sarcastic comment, such as, "How can anything good come from Nazareth?" But within a short time, he proclaimed Jesus himself, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Now, how did he come from complete indifference of this man from Nazareth to following him and proclaiming him as the Son of God? I believe the secret lies in Psalm 139, because it reveals how God knows us through and through. "You trace my journeys and my resting places, and are acquainted with all my ways. Indeed, there is not a word on my lips, but you, O Lord, know it altogether." Nathanael undoubtedly knew this psalm. So when he asked, "Where did you get to know me?" and Jesus answered, "I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you," Nathanael gets it. He understands. It's not the questioning when Jesus saw him, but it's in knowing that this is God who traces his journeys and his resting places, who indeed knows each word on his lips, even when they are slurs against a man from Nazareth. As an ardent follower of Jesus, Nathanael, known also in the Bible as Bartholomew, reached out to bring others to Christ. And during Jesus' ministry, we know that he helped to feed the 5,000. And at the Last Supper, he asked Jesus, "Show us the Father, and that will be enough." And Jesus said to him, "Whoever has seen me has seen the Father." After the crucifixion and resurrection, Nathanael traveled as a missionary to India, Turkey, and then Armenia, where he was martyred. Now jumping ahead another 2,000 years to January 2008, what about us? Do we understand God's closeness to us? At Christmas, we welcome the incarnate Son of God into our lives. We were impressed last week to think how the Magi traveled on camels for 18 months in order to seek the newborn child and to worship him. We also stood with John the Baptist, who, as unconventional as he may present himself, boldly acted to baptize in order to make straight a highway for our God. And last week, Father Kevin asked us to be bold. Have you considered that challenge? God is with you, not out there, but ready to help. Several weeks ago, I was in a Deacon Diana mode as I was encouraging a parish friend to take on a more demanding role here in the church. Now, you know, I must have been doing a pretty good job, because he said to me, "You know, I'm looking for some salespeople at my company. Maybe you would like to apply." I laughed, assuring him that I was a miserable salesperson going way back to those days when I sold fewer Girl Scout cookies than any other girl in my troop. But this little humorous encounter made me wonder, why am I bold when it comes to recruiting parishioners into new ventures, or welcoming guests into our All Saints Church family? I think it's all in what I'm selling. And when we are bold for the right reason, God's reasons, it works. I want others to know the presence of God, not out there, but near, standing with us here. We need God in our lives. Father Kevin encouraged us last week to invite others in order to share that gift. It seems to me that if we are open to God, who knows us through and through, who presses upon us from behind and before, who lays his loving, supportive hands upon us and guides us on the path of life, we will, as it says in today's collect, become God's people, illumined by the word and the sacraments. Thus we will shine with the radiance of Christ's glory. And in so doing, we will make God known, worshiped, and obeyed to the ends of the earth. Amen.